New year, old me. I can feel it with my skin. I feel we're across the borders, we're collectively getting tired of others reinventing the wheel for us and calling it innovation or new, or if you've never heard this before. And it's insulting to our intelligence, it's insulting to logic, it's insulting to our emotional memories that we formed. No matter how old you are, you do have some neurological patterning and programming. And when we continuously encounter the same things slightly warmed up and peppered and produced to us as a freshly cooked meal, things are just people are just starting to lose patience. It doesn't mean that we don't want anything new or any trends. It has to make sense, right? It has to make cognitive sense. It has to fit into certain fabric of our memories, of our collective knowledge, of certain dignified ceremoniality of how we approach expressing ourselves through life. It goes way bigger than bottles of perfume. It is an aesthetic. It is the way that we weave memories into the history, not just our private lives, but the history of, I dare say, humanity. That said, let's see what kind of trends for 2026 we've got projected by one of the smartest people in the tech industry and members of the very dignified and very respectable data science division of Pinterest, one of the largest cultural and visual aesthetic aggregators in the world. It is very hard, actually, to compose those. Think about it. If you were tasked with that glorious burden to predict cultural and aesthetic trends for 2026 for at least sort of English speaking cultural sphere, which is a very fractured environment, but nevertheless, they accumulated a lot of data. They probably have went up and down in terms of trying to do topic modeling, like how those things cluster. Then they probably had an editorial team that looked at certain community clusters or topical clusters and tried to give them names. They probably consulted with creative agencies. There's usually a lot of work that goes into that. So I am not as skeptical of trend reports when it comes from actual big data, and I'm a little bit more of a when it's an obscure niche industry magazine or small marketing agency. I mean, you have to take their predictions with a grain of salt. But when it's big data usually speaks for itself, but you have to be very masterful in almost extract hierarchical knowledge before you can compose a report like this. We are going to amuse ourselves with coming up with some perfume recommendations to fit the trends. This is just purely for our inspiration, for kind of shaking off this consumerism mindset that we constantly have to talk and chase all the new things, and there is hundreds and hundreds of new perfumes coming into the market. It also distracts us, I think, a lot from much bigger picture of what olfaction and sense of smell really represents for us in our lives. So let's treat this as a game, as a creative little game and exploration where we can kind of stretch our fingers and explore what we can come up with. All right, we're suspending disbelief and putting our creative faith in Pinterest data science team. Let's see. First one. Afrohemian Decor. It's a fusion of African and Bohemian styles. Pinterest team tells us searches for African boho living room and Afro chic home decor are trending on Pinterest. And I gotta say, I can feel it coming. I think it's everywhere. I also would dare say it's a bit of a nouveau nostalgia. I don't care if you're analyzing weather, real estate, fashion, or perfume trends or whatever. When the bigger environment is in turmoil, every analyst will confirm nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. To me, this is one of the newer, polished versions of nostalgia to the 70s, plus this kind of hippie, because it's boho, hippie drive toward eclectic, bright, colorful, happy. But here we get this curation with not just bright and happy, and any ethnic motif will do. So we get here some Nigerian colorful art. We have a lot of fairly unconventional objects on the walls. It is pretty common in many countries outside of, let's say, pure Western civilization to hang not just paintings, but all kinds of objects. People decorate their walls with rugs, with obviously animal heads, with fur, with a lot of different things. It's not just shelves or paintings. There are usually pretty colorful and sometimes three-dimensional collages. All of that I can totally see fitting into this trend, and I'm living for it. I think it rings true to me. My spidery senses, my own big data floating in ether. There's going to be more chaos. There's going to be more wars. There's going to be more economic upheaval and whatnot. Nostalgia, vintage, somewhat upcycled and or polished with new technologies, new materials to make it potentially more affordable or more sleek or more longer lasting. Carefully combined with antique or vintage things, objects, that's gonna, I can see this becoming super popular. And it also has the second necessary ingredient for the moods in chaotic times, and which is happy. Colorful, happy, vintagey, nostalgic, and diverse, with the borders crossing with kind of this, if I put it politely, sovereign move of many governments to isolate, not necessarily isolate, but kind of draw boundaries, for better and for worse, for all kinds of reasons. I think people are actually craving the sense of discovering, the sense of being part of the bigger world. Afrohemian decor absolutely slays in this department. I couldn't have picked a better representative for what people feel they in need right now. When it comes to perfumery, let's see how we would style this. Well, if we want spicy, colorful, happy, and also African and vintage, I mean, how can you miss that? Yes, it is very obvious, banal, and kind of in your face choice. Le Femme Quinzeau is spicy. It has certain amount of, to me it has very strong cardamom and other spices together. It is resinous, sweet-ish, but it's not a gourmand. And what I really like about it, compared, let's say, to other classics, kind of like mid-Asia classics, such as Opium or even Shalimar to that end, though Shalimar has a very distinct kind of resinous amber plus fresh limey bergamot. This doesn't have the fresh opening. This is all just spices, resins, and a little bit of piercing of animalic ingredients, but it's not as animalic as Opium. To me, Quinzeau is one of the most wearable references of them all when it comes to fragrances of that era. Heavy, spicy, luscious, bohemian, and yet it is a happy fragrance. I think because of the spices, it's very comforting. It has unmistakable, slightly vintagey vibe, and it costs peanuts online. So, absolutely. Kenzo Jungle Lifan fits the bill. All right, next one, Brooched. There's a new way to wear your heart on your sleeve or tie or socks. So I am living for this trend, just speaking purely aesthetically wise. Here we're seeing a little fancier version, but also the sneak peek of a much more casual outfit with the brooches. And I'm not gonna leave this trend behind. I'm gonna put a bird on my shoulder, all right? I have a whole collection of brooches, and they went out of fashion before they got into fashion. So I am gonna take it and I'm gonna fly with it. How would I interpret it as a perfume trend? I think a very fancy, baroque, like a very fancy accent, potentially sexy, loud, decorative scent that also can be put on a hoodie, right? Like fancy without a second thought. Overly ornated without much of a structure or thought through. And when I thought about that, what kind of perfume has a lot of this bright, fancy character, and yet it doesn't seem like it thought too much about it? There's not too much thought or depth or complexity or pedigree to it. It's just oddly, here I am. I feel like it. I thought Mad Madame would fit it. Also, Juliette Has a Gown Mad Madame has kind of a raspberry syrup with neon green patchouli and kind of sour, oily rose. Every time when I look at fancy brooches, I start thinking of semi-precious stones. Then I start thinking of, deep green, royal blue, dark, almost pink or purple like raspberry red. And then I start thinking about berries and raspberries. And here it is. It is bright. It is kitschy almost, and yet is not overly complicated. It's exactly like, I think this perfume is a perfect manifestation of throwing a fancy brooch on a denim jacket or hoodie. I'll take it. Next one, Cabbage Crush. All right. The motto for 2026, live, laugh, leaf. In the year ahead, boomers and Gen X will say goodbye to their cauliflower obsession. Well, says the person who has 2 huge cauliflower heads in my fridge that desperately need cooking. And crown cabbage as the new kitchen champ. By the way, I recently made German sauteed cabbage with ham, and it was glorious and reminded me of my childhood. All right. Think blistered edge steaks, kimchi cocktails, and even crispier taco wraps. It's crunch time, baby. I knew exactly what perfume to pull for it because there's a funny story attached to it. Rose Privée by L'Artisan Parfumeur is one of those severely underrated gems in the old school L'Artisan Parfumeur collection that you can still get with huge discounts, that you can get in their original packaging and even in the kind of the set packaging that I don't think they no longer make, because a lot of people didn't get it when it got released. It is a most delightful representation of musky, fresh, zesty rose with basilic. Okay, maybe not cabbage. I'm actually not a big fan of this of the vinegar, like fermented cabbage or boiled or fresh cabbage scent, to be honest. But when we're talking about vegetation, vegetable smells, this is one of my all-time favorite vegetable-ish Rose with basilic morning rose. I love it. Ever since I bought a replacement, which I got criticized for, believe it or not, I posted a reel from the Last Drops episode where I was talking about Rose Privé, and somebody with a sharp eye told me, "You say you use it a lot, and yet this is a completely full 100 ml bottle." And I was like, where were you? Where were you? I am about to be done with the OG 50 ml that I've been saving for a better morning, for a greener pastures ahead. And ever since I found this set, I'll leave a link below for those of you who are looking for it or want to give it a go. I started bathing in Rose Privé every morning. It's just such a satisfying feel. It is way juicy over rose than all musky roses I've ever tried. Yes, there are some beautiful ones, more bitter ones like Blouse by Yves Saint Laurent. There are softer ones, there are skin-like ones. There are many beautiful ones, but if you want a fresh, zesty rose with an edge, which I would say the accord of basilic really does create successfully, Rose Privé, beautiful, beautiful baby. And once at it, you can get it from me as a trio of the best morning roses I've ever come across. I'll leave a link below. So very much in tune, Pinterest team, very much in tune not only with the trends from the culinary communities, but also with the trends from the big four, the big chemical manufacturing teams, because one of the trends for the new year specifically to the fragrance and flavors market, and think all the perfumers, all the houses, they work kind of underneath it all in the shadows are the big four, or let's say big 10, the 10 biggest, largest manufacturing holdings. These are really huge, massive companies. They make pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, like over 90% of anything you would need to make a perfume or to make food. Anything that has a smell is probably manufactured by them. And one of the trends that people keep talking about is vegetative type of gourmand. Gourmand in general, we used to think about it as something sweet, something dessert-like, but it's inclusive of anything edible. And we've seen attempts like that. Comme des Garçons has made a red beet perfume. There is Polished Potatoes by Boho Boko, which is a great niche polymer brand. I keep trying to find a door into to try more of what they do. So vegetative kitchen type of gourmands are projected to be the it for the next probably 5 years in this and that manifestation. We don't know if it's going to be cabbage or basilic or dill or red beet or onions. I don't know. But it's gonna be present. It's gonna be a continuation of exploring unusual and yet again comforting kitchen scents, right? Comforting, familiar but twisted into a haute couture of olfactive arts. That is definitely here to stay. Make a mental note, make a mark, and maybe search your collection to see if you have anything of that genre. Next one, well, that is easy to guess. Cool Blue. Meet the shade that refuses to warm up to anyone. Gen Z and millennials are bringing a sub-zero sophistication to absolutely everything in 2026. Think cool tone coats, glacier-inspired accessories, and frostiest of cocktails. It is the temp drop we've all been waiting for. Subtle hint and at the global warming. This was tough for me because besides the famous Lanvin Oxygen, which I love and wear almost primarily to the gym, to me, not much else represents this trend in my collection because, to be completely fair with you, I think light blue has been irreversibly tarnished in my perceptive mind with respect to perfumes. The moment I see the blue like that, I think of those biohazard cleaning liquids, such as nearly all sport extreme cologne versions of, I guess technically speaking, they're fragrances that you can find in the kind of men's division, men's departments. I never liked it, neither on me nor on anybody else. But if I really dive into my collection, I do find some peculiar and odd specimens that I'm fairly sure are actually very popular with people. So one that might warm up on some people after you've loved and tried Baccarat Rouge, and then you moved on to Ganymede, and then you moved on to some other forms of thereof. Maybe Aventus Creed was at some point a favorite. A nice entrance into more of a old school niche, kind of taking a look back into where that old thing has started way before it was popular, is to try Serge Lutin's Udentele, because that one has an unmistakably metallic and, as they say, kind of bloody teeth. That experience when you lose your milk tooth and you feel this slightly metallic, the taste of blood, it tastes kind of metallic because of the iron in it. So Serge Lutin's Attendele is probably the most dignified form of that. If you are a vintage soul, if you're currently diving through the history of olfactory arts and perfumes as a haute couture art form, try that. That's an oldie. For those of you who are worried, is it going to be that awful and that distracting me from enjoying my day, I want to reassure you, it is still a perfume. It just has this a little bit of piercing metallic, and therefore makes me think of this cool tone steel blue quality. And yet it's a sharp, bright, cool toned floral. That's another way to look at it. A more popular version is obviously Ganymede. Thanks to my subscriber, I do have this nuclear sample that I every once in a while spray just to mentally prepare myself before I go to the dentist. Because without a doubt, if you ever worked as a dentist assistant, you know this smell. This is the smell of some flavor that they put into whatever liquid or gel that they use when they work on people's teeth. But dental office associations aside, again, very technogenic, very abstract, very kind of chemical factory inspired, bright, steely blue type of a fragrance. But since it has this abstract synthetic pear, kind of fruity sweetness to it, I would probably think of it as kind of chrome polish on a rose gold. Maybe not blue, maybe more of a rose gold here. Nevertheless, I think Ganymede fits the bill. And something that I think fits it even more, because it doesn't have slight sourness that Ganymede does. Ganymede does have a very satisfying proportions. It's just way too technogenic to my liking. Nasamata Fontamas. There we go, even more contemporary olfactory art. I like it a little bit more because it's so abstract that I'm no longer distracted by the plastic peach or all these overly chemical, overly unnatural composition of Ganymede. Nasamato Fontamas takes it to the level of contemporary art. It's so unmistakably, unapologetically out there. And so it's like looking at reflections of reflections of reflections of metal surfaces. It's odd. I don't wear it. I mostly just study it in comparison to other perfumes. But if you are all in on the new age futurism and the cool blue, Nascimento Fantomas, Ganymede from Anton Berrois, and for those of you vintage and kind of heritage niche lovers, Ton de Lait by Serge Lutens. Baby, you're gorgeous, but you're clashing with my earrings. So we're gonna simplify. All right, next one. Oh, this. Derrications, they call it. So it's about outdoor racing events, river rafting, adrenaline rush aesthetic. I mean, they used big data. There's probably something to it. I dare say if this is a trend, this is going away. Because to me, it feels so 2016. It's where everyone was making a portfolio of their vacations a year in advance. And, you know, the tech was booming. The salaries were growing everywhere. There were not yet that many restrictions or wars or turmoil that it was obvious to everyone, and many people were still kind of protected in their bubbles. In 2026, this type of flying at random to Boulder in some Tibet mountains, or I don't know where people go for adrenaline-inspired tourism, or Amazon river rafting, I don't know. Clearly, I'm not equipped to give you more examples. Rappelling waterfalls or canoeing routes or timing trips around global sporting events. Who does that anymore? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's where I live. Maybe it's people around me. I have heard a lot about it in about 10 years ago. All right, I'll give it right before COVID. Maybe that trend was vibrant, vivid, and everybody was doing it. But it feels very tone deaf and very not representative of what most of us are dealing with or thinking about these days whatsoever. Even those people who are not as burdened with daily troubles or challenges of living, be it financial or physical safety or something else, even those of us who are free to take vacations, here's one example. I took a 3-month road trip, the biggest in my lifetime. It took quite a lot of resources and energy to arrange. So I've been to a lot of places. I talked to a lot of people. This was not present in any of the even hot spots that I visited whatsoever. So maybe this is kind of the agony of the trust fund kids. I guess I could see that, the flying to the space, doing an orbit weekend. If you're one of the, 13, 15, 55 kids of Elon Musk, maybe, but I just can't see it as a global trend. I'm happy to stay corrected. It just doesn't translate into neither local or global pattern of what I see. None at all. I guess if you think about it as some kind of dreamy escapism, just you're traveling in your mind, you're just looking at the pictures and you want the vibe of what if I could jump on a plane and go to Aspen to snowboard for a random Saturday. Again, even the reality of air tickets, like, come on, the routes that used to cost about like $120 round trip non-stop flights now can be up to 5 to 7 times the old pre-COVID pricing. So again, but fine with the criticism. I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. So if you see the world differently, please let us know in the comments. But if I wanted to dream about it, if I wanted to kind of surround myself with a vibe like this, then I would definitely choose H24 Herbs Vive, Herb Vives, Herbs Vive, Herb Vives. I don't know where in French you lose the S or where you edit. They should have been called Herb Vibes. I said it, I reviewed the fragrance. The fragrance itself is a delightful, bright, forever with you. It has all of the modern technogenic characteristics of a long-lasting, yet kind of like a soft tongue boy. You know, like one of those with a cabbage haircut, to reference the cabbage again. It has this wonderful green, cool-toned, slightly fruity beginning that really sets it apart from an army of colognes of this kind. And this is why I would heavily recommend this if you're like a cologne guy, you don't want any fancy schmancy stuff, but you just want it to be just a tad different than everything else that has no face and then just screechy blue colored stink that is the majority of men's departments when it comes to fragrances. H24 Herbs Vive. This one by Hermes. Delightful, bright. I wear it to the gym myself because it's very fluid. It's gender fluid, I would say. Like it has a soft touch in the beginning, and yet it has like all the old school sport fragrance for young buck type of characteristic. It survives even the most intense, small, niche gyms. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like when you enter, you're like, there's never been fresh air in here in a decade. H24 Herb Vive survives that spectacularly, and people tend to like it. That's that. I'm not buying this trend, but if you have to, here's the option. Extracelestial. To me, it's just kind of a rewormed, repackaged steel blue trend. I don't really see it as separate. But if we're talking about celestial as in a way angelic or ethereal, or transhuman in a way. Well, one way to get transhuman, saying, and by that I mean have no friends left, is one of my favorite colognes that everybody hates. At this point, I have a subjective statistics, like a statistically significant number of people who I gave this cologne, this water by Serge Lutens to try, said that it was the most disgusting thing they've ever smelled. And I love it. So if you want to create space around you and to feel, to me, the most delightful melted icicle, which the effect that's created here, I think by salt and incense, a very cool toned, piercing, sharp incense. I love it. Seaweed, salt, melted icicles, cool incense. It's like, it has this crystal quality to it, like a very, very transparent piece of glass. Did I tell you what it's called? It's Dans le Bleu Qui Pétille. I love it, but if you want to go that level of celestial, you might be the only planet in that galaxy left. A completely different take on the same theme, I thought again. Something potentially almost alien, not of this world, but celestial, ethereal, wise, quiet, because cosmos is a very quiet place. There's no sound if there is no connective matter, if there's no gas through which sound can travel, then I would go with the white collection from Laboratorio Olfativo. I find that most of their white collection has a lot of options that are, to me, kind of celestial in their spirit. But Need You is one of those perfume without a perfume. It gives me traces, like a few neutrinos coming from a planet that has a lot of lemongrass growing, but you only get traces of it and you're not even sure, was it not, was it anything? I get very nose blind to Need You, but I love it, so I pretty much bathe myself in it and see what happens. If I was Juliet Has a Gun and I was composing not a perfume scent, I would probably pick something like this. Need You probably is one of those quiet molecules that kind of just stays on your skin if you put it in large quantities. So Need You by the Laboratorio Olfativo for quiet and peaceful travel, transcending the galaxies, and for a little bit more forceful and a little bit more solitary, Serge Dutan's Dans le bleu qui pétille. Next one, circus. I couldn't have made it myself, dude. Circus, but not just any circus, vintage circus. So a lot of circus-inspired interiors, accessories, and when it comes to that, I think it's a very niche trend. I think it potentially blends just the overall exploring past bygone eras. And when it comes to circus, usually in the vibes that we could translate into what kind of scent would really create that vibe, is something odd combination of notes, almost silly, grotesque. I would say nearly half of fragrances by Demeter would fit. And as I started thinking about them, I thought of the one I would nominate from my collection. This is Lush, Death and Decay. This is such a weirdo. This is such a weird fragrance. Lush has a few that could also be nominated into the circus category. But Lush and Decay, it just smells like an old funeral home. It has an animalic component that makes it's like a vintage circus. It's the moving cribs and the big boxes with costumes that were worn and reworn and fixed and reworn by generations of circus artists. Is the mix of sweat, candle dippings, of potentially animal dippings somewhere in the corners, with piercing, bright, lily floral aspect. It's contrasting, it's weird, it's in your face, it's bizarre, and it's not trying to be cool. It's just trying to be different for the sake of being different. And I think nothing manifests circus vibe or vintage circus vibe as Lush and Decay by Lush. To me, it just hits the bill. It's bright, it's odd, it's illogical, it's weird, it's bizarre, it's almost grotesquely blown out of proportion. When it comes to the overall vibe, as I said, I think it's very niche. I don't think this is going to be a major thing, but I guess 2026 will show us. Next one. Okay, this is already here, and this is to stay. Give Me Gummy. These are not just gourmands. These are gourmands that take the idea of edible to the level of neon kawaii, K-pop, manga, almost this, again, transhuman in a way, form of gourmands. Something so bright, edible. Think the flavor of mochi, the flavor of all those bubble teas and things of that nature. Let's see, gummy bears. We actually do have a number of releases that specifically target chewable gummy bear accords. Yokan, Agar Agar, Jelly Blush, Jelly Candy Aesthetic, Full On Gummy. We're talking picture bendy phone cases, elastic cheek tints, probiotic treats. They have that spring back bite, rubberized nail art, 3D jewelry. Become your new tactile obsession. Okay. All right. Not my cup of tea. But as you know better than I do, there is a number of them out in the market. Miami, even Juliet has a gun, I think has two, Miami Shake and Powder Love. There is Montal Bubblegum, I think, literally. I think that's called. In my collection, the closest that I have is Berry Blanche by Michael Malal, but I already featured it in a couple of videos, so I decided to pull you something a little unexpected. This is an haute couture, like haute perfumery collection by Salvador Dali. Hard to find. You mostly will have to either shop my stash or peruse gray markets, because Salvador Dali has the most bizarre and obscure distribution pattern. Ma Muse. A lot of people criticize this collection by Salvador Dali, which is called Daligram, and it's devoted to the hidden scripted language that Salvador Dali developed in his love letters to Gala, his wife and muse. And Ma Muse, to me, is the most unique, well-rounded kind of parfait, semi-sweet scents that I cannot quite describe. A lot of people criticize this collection for being redundant, for a lot of fragrances seemingly being inspired by other top hits, such as Love by Kilian or Angel Mugler or Hypnotic Pose and whatnot. Actually, people quote a lot of different perfumes as these collections seemingly clones, and yet they can't agree on which ones. I dare say Ma Muse is a particularly unique blend. I don't know a single perfume that it reminds me of, and yet it is bizarrely bubblegummy. This fragrance on the surface has all of the usual ingredients of kind of sweetie, edible gourmand suspects. You'll find accords, or at least marketing team tells us there is a accord of sort of almond, kind of like a marshmallow sweet vanilla cake, kind of lactonic, kind of condensed milk or whipped cream. The usual suspects, heliotrope, even carnation flower, all of these cutie pie type of accords. If you blend all of those chemicals together at this or that shape, you'll get this. But it is not as trivial and simple and kind of gummy bear, like or marshmallow, pink marshmallow type of a cheap perfume you can buy. It has all of the qualifications of high perfumery to my nose. It is effortlessly blended together. And it also has a hidden freshness that brings a lot of breath, a lot of air into this unbelievably tightly shaped cuteness. None of these notes, neither heliotrope, almond, sweet vanilla, lactonic, nothing sticks out. It's all so blended together that I'll be hard pressed to really list those notes and confidently say they're there. It is just this pink fluff. And yet, I don't feel ashamed wearing it. It does have a polish that only can be created by a perfumer who was really trying to prove themselves. I gotta say, a lot of in-demand master perfumers, to me, at some point start just recycling their old ideas over and over and over. Maybe it's just an objective trend that has to happen. Like we've seen it happen with every single one. Francis Kurkdjian is one of the kind of older famous cases. Now it's Quentin Biche or Olivier Cresp. It seems that all of them are just recycling the same ideas, just changing a little bit the periphery of the formulas. So to create something so well blended, so elegant, and yet it's such a darling, it's such a charming, giggly perfume that has such a great, elegant pedigree to it, that I must say My Muse by Salvador Dali, it's one of the most underrated gummy bear bubblegum type of perfumes on the market. It definitely deserves your attention and fits this trend to a T. And if it was me, if I was the head of the Pinterest trend team, I would put this trend the first. Because I would say this is absolutely mainstream, be it red, purple, rainbow, or more muted, more kind of ice cream colors. This is it. This is it. This is one of the biggest one that exists. Edible gourmands. The cuteness that transcends humanity and it becomes almost cartoonish in a way. All right. Well, this one was easy. I bet you can predict what I'm going to say. Glamourati. The decade of decadence is back in style, and honestly, it's about time. Tailored suits with sculptured shoulders will grow 3 sizes. Funnel necks will be the base of every outfit. And jewelry, well, that'll get chunkier, bolder, and golder. The maximalist aesthetic. There's nothing to me that does a better job of walking the line of hard luxury and showiness than Amouage. Very few brands manage to capture this kind of Arabian Barocco that doesn't feel cheap, doesn't feel boring, and yet delivers this appetite, this lust for visible glamour. Amouage is very visible. With very rare exceptions, 99% of their perfumes are meant to be worn out and about. And there's no better manifestation of glamourati trend to me as their very special elixirs collection and the Amouage Epic 56. This piney rose, I don't even want to dive too much into the marketing pyramid of notes because I think we kind of overdo it with listing notes that marketing came up with. This is just so regal. This is one of these invite-only Dubai New Year's parties. This is where you would go to waste a couple of million just to have a good start to your year. Very nouveau riche, but with class. You know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to waste your money when you come to money. And Amouage, especially collections like this one, that cost some astronomical amount of money for like any reasonable perfume lover, they just walk this tight rope between ostensibly bright and yet having class, you know, having pedigree, having refinement, craft, respect for tradition while being very showy about it. Yes, Epic 56, the glamourati of 2026. If you can put your hands on a 5ml decant, if I still have any left to share from my shelves, I'll leave a link below. You probably don't need more than 5ml because these are extracts. These even feel oily on the skin. They have a very high concentration of very macerated ingredients. They're smooth, bright, luxurious, long-lasting, and yet at least this collection to me is precious because it just completely avoids this whole technogenic Telia, Ganymede, chemical factory vibe whatsoever. These feel like those precious gold dipped oils, essential oils that were, blessed by the heat of Sahara Desert. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Epic 56 is the most beautiful version of Epic you'll ever experience. It's absolutely regal. It's majestic. All right, next one, Glitchy Glam. Seems a bit of a repetition of that gummy bear candy lane trend, but if I'm looking at these makeup-y kind of how to do this super bright, super I'm such a sugar candy on the cheap. It's kind of like a girl from the hood who wants to be vivacious. Eccentric makeup, weird makeup, nails, they're over the top, and yet you're not really trying to present yourself as a kawaii or a manga character. You're trying to be spicy, like a spicy, yummy little thing that you are. So then I think we're going for something bright, sugary, sticky, just like La Vie Belle trope of characters in perfumery. I think Love by Kilian would fit right in here. I personally hate it. Same with Angel's Share, unfortunately. But my version of this, that's yummy, girl. That's something that accessible to everyone. It has to be very accessible, very in your face, very, very kind of sticky, sweet, trying to be bright, but you only have $50 to spare, right? My version of that is L'Interdit Givenchy. This is Rouge, right? This is Rouge Eau de Parfum. Yes, the red bottle. A kind of molten condensed milk with that sugary grape syrup and tuberose that L'Interdit is famous for. I love the bottle. It's a rare occasion that something so, think condensed milk, grape syrup, kind of bubblegum tuberose. Woo! It definitely has this vibe, but it makes me happy. I think it's the grape syrup that makes this one so different from all of the other ones for me. So my kind of, chunky manicure, overly bright with a lot of colorful eyeliners, bright lips, bright everything, but on a budget, is L'Interdit Rouge by Givenchy. I think it's fun. It's beautiful. It's girly. It's got this vibe. I gotta say, I'm starting to feel sad for the guys because we girls have all the fun, don't we? Oh, here we go. Here's one for the guys. Khaki Coded. Dig into the fashion's newest find. Embrace a new aesthetic inspired by wonders of the world. Back to the bygone, ceremonial, dignified era of open borders explorations of the world. We're thinking these kind of the death on the Egyptian archaeological site, whodunit stories by Agatha Christie and whatnot. We're thinking Casablanca, possibly. And I thought, when we're talking about khaki, the immediate vibe is vetiver, like a dry, cerebral, not too green, not too bitter type of vetiver. And then I thought, that's an obvious choice. And, Terre Hermes always fits the bill. So does Vetiver by Guerlain. But to bring a little bit more of these emotional journey into this space, I would go with a very unusual but melancholic, esteemed, thin leather scent by L'Artisan Parfumeur. This is called Monde de Narcisse. It's devoted to the Narcissus daffodil flower. And yet to me, I said it before, I'll say it again, it opens with sweet dried bananas, then transitions into a daffodil, and then goes into this melancholic, herbaceous, meaning like dried herbs plus thin-skinned leather. Think leather notebook maybe scent. Because it has this juxtaposition and time evolution from charming sweetness of dried fruits that again make me think of travel. A lot of the dried fruits for centuries, that was the way for people in different parts of different countries to experience exotic fruits to them, similar with pickled vegetables that would be transported from north to the south. So dried fruits plus the journey, the changing of the comforting and the familiar in the cute to melancholic, lonely, cerebral, like ruminating almost. It has this pensive quality to it. Monde de Narcisse by L'Artisan Parfumeur, I would recommend if you're having a feel that you want to be in one of those Agatha Christie novels. Next, let's see if we get luckier and luckier. Laced Up. To me, it's a mixture between kind of the gummy bear, sweet, gourmand, and celestial. But sure, very nostalgic. It's a kind of this angelic barocco, the way that I see it. So again, we're talking about something nude, demure, mannered, almost old-fashioned. And nothing to me says beautifully old-fashioned than warm, spicy floral lavender. And here there is a beautiful cheapie. If you can't find it, try. This is one of the old Burberrys. Burberry's had such a beautiful portfolio of fairly diverse scents once upon a time they did. This is Burberry Brit Rhythm for her eau de toilette. Burberry Brit Rhythm. Subtle. Kind of like eyes down with impeccable coy manners. Lavender. It's not lavender, it's kind of wrapped in this very elegant, subtle, floral, warm, dry, slightly powdery base. It's Burberry at its best. I dare say it's Burberry at its best. If you ever wanted to experience this quiet luxury, I think lavender, that's what makes it very vintagey, very lacy. But overall, DNA of how Burberry used to make sense. And like now, if you can find it, it's going to be dirt cheap or you won't find it at all. Such a beautiful manifestation of new age lavender. Not syrupy, not caramelly, not austere, not fougere-like, just quiet lavendery whisper, soft, thinly weaved in, just like a good handmade, craft-made lace. Okay, this one is gonna be hard for me because this is my wheelhouse. This is where I shine. This is where I live. Mystic Outlands. Fairy tale meets fever dream in the biggest 2026 travel trend. So the search query Scotland Highlands aesthetic grew, drum roll, 465%. I've never seen, in this whole report, I've never seen a number that high. Scotland Highlands aesthetic is king. escapism. We all want to leave the nuclear bomb sites, the targets. We all want to live in the forest at this point. I can see the fatigue coming to a collective mindset. All right, so we're talking whimsical, mystical destinations, distant ruins swallowed in mist, naturally occurring spirals and moody, enchanting forests. I can't pick one. It's my wheelhouse. I have collections upon collections of fragrances like that. All right, it's hard. I barely managed to pick two, and I'm just gonna briefly outline the beauty of foresty, piney accords. Often they can get unfairly grouped into fougères, and therefore this, kind of aftershave liquid or cream for men. This is abomination of the genre, I dare say. So one of my new additions that I love, it was a swap. This is Bois 1920, a very curious niche brand, worth your attention in my view. This guy is called Vento di Fiori. A salty patchouli, so it has a little bit of a damp soil feel, somewhat of a kind of a pile of autumn leaves slowly rotting together with the pines, with this like dry pine needles woody accord. I live for it. I love it. It's as the newest addition to my collection. This is what I'm gonna wear when I think about this trend. And the other one, very hard to find unless you know a magical link you can follow. This is Rouge Bunny Rouge, their Dark Fairy Tales collection, now firmly discontinued. Tundra. More melancholic. Think if Encore Noir Lalique was done in the best possible way. And then, instead of being loud, it became ascetic. Beautiful. Tundra and Vento di Fiori. And as I said, if you want me, there is more. There's more to where this came from. All right, but we gotta move on. I'm living for it. The escapism into the remote places, the mist-covered Scotland Highlands. I'm all in for. If I could be there now, I would. We're really getting into inclusive trends. It's not all just bubblegum and girly stuff. All right. Next one is resurgence of Art Deco. Very dignified, sculptured, architectural, much more controlled in the way that it showcases natural materials, kind of forcefully, decisively manipulated into shapes that are not natural. That's how I usually try to explain myself the difference between bohemian or eclectic or ethnic, like all these, like there are so many movements, aesthetic movements that are based on natural and beautiful materials and textures and colors. But I think Art Deco is the one where you apply a very contrasting, almost militantly forceful form onto all of those materials with meticulous attention to detail. And the fragrance that I think symbolizes that to the T by function, if not by literal meaning of Art Deco, is Hermès Bellamy. And Bellamy Vetiver is the option that I have in my collection. This is the most beautiful, slightly piney, subtly sweet, kind of gourmand vetiver that is very grown up, very well crafted, and decisively so. This is where I feel you feel such richness, luxuriousness of the materials that are very decisively put in a very thought through composition, shape of this perfume. I think Bellamy and Bellamy Vetiver, as many of the older classics by Hermes, are quite unmistakable. I love it. And I think it's one of those fragrances that layers well. If you want to take it away from its classical roots into a slightly more flamboyant or experimental territory, you can by layering it with something lighter or more flirty. But by itself, it's very hard luxury, but it's from legacy family, so to speak. Okay, next one, opera aesthetic. I think this is just an extension, a slightly different take on the glam core, the in-your-face hard luxury. But I guess this has a bit of a more vintagey vibe to it. It's unapologetically esteemed. It's where you let your grace shine, and another layer of expensive jewelry that you showcase, you showcase to the world, I earned it, with decades of glamour, service, and unapologetic freedom that I exercise, or something of that nature. And when it comes to that feeling of an opera diva, it has to be something both well understood. It cannot be too complex. It has to be heard and seen from across the whole. And yet it has to have this simplicity to be easily understood by thousands of adoring fans. Esteem of centuries-long tradition. And drama. It was easy. It was easy because Amar Oud Mysterious Rose, it was one of their limited edition releases. This is gourmand, lychee, syrup dipped rose oil. Like, it's so sexy in this most dark red sequined gala dress type of a way. And what I like about it, if this is kind of like girl next door, trying to be fancy, trying to be yummy, glammy, classy, this is classic diva. And it's unapologetically alluring. It's the Mysterious Rose, it doesn't work too hard to charm you, but it just captivates you. It just enters the room ready to captivate your attention. It lasts forever. It is very sexy, but it's not as technogenic as some of the other, let's say, Quentin Bish's sexy creations are. It has very old school, glamorous drama diva vibe. I love it. I was very lucky to get it. Very expensive, polished packaging, and the fragrance inside is just compliments to the chef. It is smooth. It would fit really well with this special edition Amouage Creations. It has the same type of feel. It's very smooth, luxurious, relaxed. It's the diva who is baking in her own international fame. And yet she's not stuck up. She's just effortlessly seductive. Mysterious Rose, Amar Oud says it all. I think this is the trend. I would lump those, if that was me, I would lump those together into old new school glamour, drama. So to me, this is kind of a niche sub-trend of a larger trend. What is this? Pen pals. Expect a letter writing renaissance in 2026. as the youngsters turn snail mail to authored art. Think elaborate envelopes, special stationery, and so many stamps. DMs your dust. I'm in for it. I actually already started writing letters a while ago. And when I think about what it represents, what kind of mood, is this youthful idealism, right? It's intentional slow down, intentional refusal of being cool, and instead choosing to be very specific in your affections. Because writing a letter, if you haven't done it in a while, it takes forever. And writing a letter, you have to be unapologetically not cool, very intentionally specific in your affections, human or idea or theme wise, and you have to be somewhat idealistic, in my view. And few things represent that era, that idea, than, to me, Oscar Wilde's creations, that effortless idealism that he juxtaposes to jaded high society cynicism and kind of the undercover dirty work that was happening in social climbing. With all those, there was always one ingenue in his theater script that kind of just comes through and just starts preaching everyone on freedom, honesty, and true love, as kind of like a contrast to very gnarly, deep-rooted societal problems that he exposes. So I picked Floris, this whole cultural naivete, to me reads very British, inclusive of British olfaction blending style that we usually think of as clean, puritanic, very polished, simplistic, not overly complex, floral and herbaceous, green, even spicy arrangements. So something that makes you want to kind of run to the mail office and post that letter. The Wild, which is devoted to Oscar Wilde by Floris, has a really cute equal parts something green, something carnation. Carnation is a flower. And something soft, soothing, sweet, but it's not gourmand, it's not vanilla, so it's like a benzoin-ish, I think sandalwood is in there. So it's a soft, soothing landing without this fragrance ever losing its naive, idealistic, kind of green, freshy floralness of a blooming carnation. So I think pen pals are well represented by Floris Wilde, and I bought myself a travel, and as soon as I'm done with it, guys, I'm absolutely buying myself a full-size bottle. Such a beautiful green carnation floral. Mwah, lovely. Very much, it feels fresh, it feels of the moment, and it makes me feel 16 again. Poetcore. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it is. Aspiring authors, take note. In 2026, kids will channel their inner wordsmiths with oversized turtlenecks, vintage blazers, and messenger bags. Oh, and don't forget the fountain pen. Now I want a fountain pen. They just opened something visceral in me. Have you ever owned a fountain pen? I want one now. I need to write this down. I want a fountain pen now. I just want to try it. If I was to buy one, how would you choose a good one? Please let me know. Poetcore. So something cerebral, I would think quiet. You don't want anything too bright or distracting because it's all about your mind palace. But it also has this flavor of coziness because oversized allows you to kind of slouch and relax. You're not really watching your posture. You are not showcasing your abs or anything, right? Like you're kind of covering, you're kind of wearing half of your closet on you. You can sleep in Poetcore, I think, in those kind of outfits out in the street if you had to, or if you chose to. So this kind of many layers, and yet it has to be something complex, cerebral, quiet, and yet again naive. Because in 2026, to decide to become a poet, a human poet, mind you, it is definitely a, I don't want to say brave, there's nothing brave about it, but it's definitely a decadent, escapist type of a choice, and something that I think goes well along with it, because it's romantic, quiet, cerebral, and youthful, is Sir Galahad by Isabey. It is the most inspiring gardenia that was wrapped for men. Usually when people say gardenia, you think, oh, sweet, rounded, kind of a milky, creamy floral. It's too girly. It's too feminine. Wait until you tried Sir Galahad. I think the fragrance fits the name and the kind of conceptual story behind this young man who traveled the world for the Holy Grail in search for it and was the only one who found it because he was pure of heart. This to me is very Poetcore. The name, the olfactory composition, it has all necessary ingredients: romance, naivete, slightly unusual component wrapped in the gender fluid way. I wear it with pleasure. To me, this is not a cologne. This is not something, blue Dior Sport Extreme something like that. It's like a piano tune. It's like a sequence of notes in just in this fluffy, like this like piano sound when you can hear the keys and it's almost like very low pianissimo tapping. Does it make sense? That's what it sounds to me like. It's very Poetcore. Sir Galahad Isabey, I'm living for it, though I would not recommend it as a career choice, but you do you. Scent stacking. Well, they did know that the term is scent layering. We all know it. I have a whole episode on scent layering tricks, tips, and specific combos that I think work beautifully and really just transform the fragrances into something entirely new and unconventional, or conventional and delightful. So you can watch that, and I agree. I think scent layering is going to continue, especially since the industry is not even attempting to stop. We still are we're at the tipping point. We haven't reached the crush for the perfume industry. So more press releases, more new products, more brands, more quickly manufactured perfumes, or not so quickly, but like the whole variety. Anything you can think of is overproduced right now. And that also means it's not done blindly. There is a still growing interest, and collections are still growing. People are not done accumulating perfumes, and that means that people are blind buying. People are buying because a popular influencer said this or that, and eventually it's just unavoidable that eventually they'll start scent layering, because half of their perfume collection they actually don't care to wear. It's just the naked truth. That's the other side of consumerist culture, which we're all subjected to on a daily basis. So scent layering is here to stay, and as much as I appreciate studying very concrete compositions in their entirety, that's my personal choice, I do layer scents, and you can learn all about it in a different episode. I think it's exactly what is called scent layering on the Perfume Nation podcast. Next one, childish. Well, to me, this is kind of a crossover between the letter writing, circus, this kind of infantilism. And to be honest, I don't really like scents that are created for children. I've tried a few, not a big fan. And in that case, any body spray will do. So I'm just gonna skip this category, because to me, usually fragrances made in that kind of childish aesthetic are just the cheapest, the most banal, kind of run-of-the-mill type of concoctions that are aromatizers rather than perfumery. Not the one for me. But if it is one for you, please leave your suggestions down below. I think this is, I don't see it as a trend, to be honest. I see more of this kind of teenage aesthetic, writing letters, Poetcore, that I see this indulgent, escapist culture. But it's a little older than 7-year-old to me. So maybe in some corners of the internet that has a place. Okay. Oh. Well, now you're talking to the dark heart, the black heart that I have somewhere deep down below. Somewhere there it is, possibly, plausibly beating, maybe not. Vamp Romantic. Amouage lyric says it all. Deep, spicy incense with a almost bitter rose austerity. And yet it has so much jammy rose sweetness hidden within. It is lethally gorgeous, dangerous, not very friendly, I must say, and yet so seductive. Like how do you combine strong, prominent incense, bitter rose component, very thorny, and jammy, sweet rose at the base? Genius. Amouage lyric. That's it. That's it. I am here for the Vamp Romantic, and I think Vamp Romantic as a aesthetic and cultural trend started about, I would say, 3 years ago. If you look, half of the Hollywood celebs are now firmly in this neo-goth Vamp Romantic trend. Love it, live it, beautiful. And we're down to the last one. But this is into the dreamland. See what the manifestation of it is. So these represents considerable 2x growth of searches about flower outfit for men, dragonfly nails, deer aesthetic. I had no idea that existed. Bug jewelry, flower outfits, men, animal inspired and outfits. So we're talking about this whispers in the night. It's imagining yourself to be an earthling or maybe even a cute troll. I can see that existing as a very, very tight niche. I don't think any of this is going to go mainstream. I don't think this is a well-defined and big enough trend. But if you think of this, of something butterfly wing nail art, soft freckles, fox-inspired outfits, all this like forest magic, right? Magical forest. I, for some reason, start thinking about red apples. Maybe it's the Disney storytelling, but my thoughts go into not the sour apples, which is I Am Trash by Etat Libre d'Orange, but red apples. They are a little bit more aromatic, they're sweeter, they have a slightly different aroma. And to me, nothing represents in perfumery better than red apples, surprisingly so, is Découverte by Laboratorio Olfattivo. Again, their white line, which to me is very ethereal, is very magical, is very light, is full of these delicate shimmering accents, the whole line. So Découverte, they didn't plan on it. It's me who discovered red apples in it. And every time I smell it, I start craving like a juicy red apple. I just want to bite into it. It has this magical forest quality to it. But I talked about Découverte to death last year. So I pull you again something slightly florally, sweetly exotic without being a gourmand. And that is Sylvain Delacourt, which had quite a splashy beginnings with their vanilla collection, and then even more so beloved musk collection. This is from their vanilla collection, Vanori. This combines very subtle romantic vanilla, not edible, more like a romantic fleur of something sweet, with frangipani. And that immediately, think of frangipani as a flower, right? Immediately gives this a little bit of a magical, floaty, romantic feel. So Vanori, to me, symbolizes the trend beautifully, which is sad because it's very hard to find. But if you know, you know. Oh my God, and that is it. We have reviewed all of the big data trends in our culture and aesthetical movement for 2026. I think time to pick some favorites. How about that? It doesn't make sense to have more than 5. It's like if you have more than 5, nothing is important. It's just a mess. However, I recorded this very long, very chatty video with a lot of examples and a lot of rambling for us to kind of go back to. You don't have to remember. You don't have to write it down. Every time when you feel uninspired, if you feel down, if you feel stuck, you can come back to this episode and just dive into all of these new worlds that these trends showcase. And this is real hardcore global data that went into forming this trend. So if you pick anything speaks to you, you will know you're not alone. You will know the search queries, you'll know where to find things and people that you're looking for. So when it comes to me, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. In terms of glamorous, overtly sexy themes here, clearly opera aesthetic, the diva, the vamp romantic, the glamourati stand out. I would kind of merge them into one. I would say old school and new school glamour. I think it kind of all fits effortlessly together. Maybe it's cheating, but I'll call it one, and I'm living for it. I always have. You know me. If you don't, soon enough you'll see. The second one, I love the nostalgia for all of those Agatha Christie, Death on the Nile type of stylistic. So I would say the combination of Art Deco, Afrohemian, and what was the other one that was very, very similar? Neo-Deco, Afrohemian, and Khaki Coded. I would just say that's like beginning of last century nostalgia. Fair? Not fair? Because I would probably mix them together. Like I would not survive pure Art Deco, and I don't enjoy overly strict ethnic policies when it comes to, getting something bohemian together. So I am more of a eclectic type of person. So I would definitely blend them together if that was me. So that's my number 2. That's just beautiful. And I gotta say, poetic and bookworm-like trends really speak to me this time. And I would, again, combine, to me, the very naturally combine into one is the Pen Pals, Poetcore, and potentially Laced Up can go there, kind of like a Demure Librarian, and definitely Mystic Outlands, all right? That's just, that is it. That is it. Everything else, I think, is cute. We have a lot of kid-like things, all these futuristic trends that mix with new preppy, which is, Weekend and Aspen, Dercations. We have these kind of crafty, give me gummy plus throwback kid plus fun cow circusy and Glitchy Glam and Brooched. So those are cool, and I think also they go together as this kind of artsy, crafty, do-it-yourself, make your own accessories type of a vibe. Close number 4, but not really. Not really. And the childish trends, be it Dercations when you're 28 trust fund baby, or when you're 7. I just don't relate to that potentially anymore, or not yet. Maybe not yet. So yeah, for me, 3, Poetcore includes the other ones, and Vamp Romantic, Glamour, and architectural decor of the beginning of past century. All this Afrohemian Art Deco, I would call it. Yeah, those are the 3. I can't wait. Can't wait to hear what you are picking as your inspiration. Has anything spoken to you? Did you feel any kind of like emotional that I can breathe with, that I can walk with, that gives me energy? If it did, please post your top 3 if there is a clear ranking in your mind, in your heart. That will be very interesting to hear where our minds are, where our hearts are, how we're entering this year. What's the, so to speak, the collective diagnosis of our souls. I hope you found this video inspirational, or at least a little bit entertaining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be waiting for your comments, not so patiently because I love them. And I'll see you in the next one.